Good morning, everyone. I'm going to do one more sound check and see if everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, can you please type in the chat? All right. Thanks, everyone. All right, lots of yeses. Fantastic. We are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for spending some time this morning with us. This is Workday 101 for Human Resources. For some of you, this may be a first look at the Workday system, which is really exciting, and this group is really excited to maybe give you your first glimpse of this system. And for others who maybe have seen Workday, this can be a nice reminder of the benefits that are coming to the HR community by adopting this more modern system. My name is William Ashley. I am the Communications Manager from the Enterprise Project. I joined the project from OHR Communications, and I'm here with some folks from the HR team on the project, and we'll have them introduce themselves.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ann Minnick. I've been at the university for about 12 years in a variety of payroll and HR positions. My most recent, before becoming a change analyst for the Enterprise Project, was with the College of Education and Human Ecology as an HR person.
Hi, I'm Matt Weber. I've been at OSU for about 11 years. And prior to Workday, I was a systems analyst with OHR, worked primarily with benefits and HR core, doing a lot of configuration and testing with that. And for Workday, I'm a compensation analyst.
Great. Thanks, Ann and Matt. They're each going to help us walk through Workday a little bit later in our presentation. I want to start with a few housekeeping notes, just for you to know. The session has one-way audio, so just know that you can hear us, but we can't hear you. But we still want you to engage with us and ask questions throughout. So I ask you to use the chat feature within Carbon Connect throughout the presentation to submit your questions. And we'll stop several times throughout our demonstration to answer those questions as they come in. And at the end, we hope to have plenty of time as well to address any remaining questions. Please know this session is also being recorded, and we are recording all 3 of our sessions for HR, and we're going to share one session out for the full HR community afterward. So there is a chance to see this again and revisit it, but also share it with some colleagues, maybe who missed today's presentation. Most importantly, I do want you to know that our intent today is to cover some of the basic aspects and elements of Workday and not really get into Ohio State specific instances or examples within the system. This is really important because we're in the phase we are in the project, in the Enterprise Project, we are developing and creating Ohio State's prototype of Workday, trying to take some new business process designs and build them into Workday. And those really won't be finalized or done until earlier next year. We're thinking around the springtime, and so that's when we want to bring the HR community back together to look at Ohio State's specific business processes in Workday. But there are some basic elements to the system, how the user experience operates, and that's what we want to show you today because there's a lot of excitement around that. We're really excited to show that to you. So I ask if you have those really specific HR questions, how a certain thing will look for Ohio State in the system, please take note of that, and we can probably better answer those questions for you later next year, sometime in the spring. Here's a quick look at our agenda today. I'm going to start talking a little bit about the Enterprise Project and about the Workday system. I'll then turn it over to Ann Minnick, who will walk us through some important terminology with the Workday system, and then she'll also be our tour guide through Workday today, and we'll end with some next steps and opportunities for some Q&A. So the Enterprise Project is first and foremost a business transformation at the university. We're really aiming to improve the Ohio State experience and advance the operational excellence goals of our time and change plan through Workday and other exceptional services and technology. When the project first started, university leaders established some guiding principles for how this work is going to get done. And these guiding principles really do serve as the North Star for the project team. And we really think about these guiding principles as we're designing new HR processes and configuring Workday for the HR community and the broader university community. We're really trying to be as forward-thinking as possible and not just do things because that's the way it's always been done, which also leads to really adopting those industry-leading business practices as much as possible. We're really trying to focus on creating an environment of collaboration and transparency through this project, and also proactively engage the HR and university community through change management and communication through events just like this to give you as much information as possible and to help you along this journey. Now moving on to a little bit about Workday. There's some things I want to share with you before we get into the system. So Workday is a cloud-based application. It's going to serve as a single system for many of Ohio State's business processes, including finance, supply chain, HR, payroll, and student information. You can see a lot of the great benefits of Ohio State going to Workday on this slide, including mobile and secure access to information, much better data utilization and data reporting, really great visibility into university transactions, which I know Anne plans to show you later on today, and more frequent upgrades to keep us current. I think if you just can remember this, if you can operate or use your smartphone, then you can use Workday. It's that user-friendly and that intuitive. So when we say that it's going to be one system for all these things, here's what we mean. Today, you need to know where to go to, even as an employee or as an HR professional, to do the work that you need to do for the university. For example, if you want to buy something, you have to go to eRequest. If you're going to hire someone, either do an HRA, maybe a green sheet. You want to see your paycheck, you go to PeopleSoft. If you want to initiate a travel process, you likely start with eTravel. And we leave it on the employee's shoulders to know where to go to get that work done. And that's really because our current systems were so not user-friendly that we had to build these systems on top of that just to make them usable for the university community. Whereas once Workday goes live in July of 2020, you're going to go to one single spot to do all of those same processes. So one place to go to do your university business instead of knowing where to go based on that specific process, which I think is a really, really great benefit or value add for the broad Ohio State community. Now, as I mentioned before, we're currently in a phase called Configure and Prototype. That means we're building Ohio State's version of Workday by configuring the system with some new business processes. Configure is an important word because it means a lot more, it's a lot different than customize. Customize is a process that Ohio State did with PeopleSoft, where we made it very, very specific to Ohio State, which made it really, really hard to upgrade PeopleSoft over time, a very costly and time-intensive process. Whereas with configuration, we're starting with some best-in-class operations that Workday provides and making some of those smaller tweaks or configurations to meet Ohio State's unique business needs. We think of this kind of like buying a condo. So when you buy a condo, you can't make significant structural changes to the building to meet your needs, but you still can go into your specific condo and make some of those alterations, some of the interior design decisions, etc., to still make it your own. And this really is going to help with that upgrade process down the line. Every 6 months, so twice a year, Workday will release major or significant updates. It'll be a lot easier for Ohio State to accept and implement those updates to have the most current version of Workday at all times. So it'll be a great benefit for Ohio State. Now from here, I'm going to turn it over to Ann Minnick, who will walk us through some important terminology and then get into the first glimpse of Workday. Ann?
Thank you, William. Yes, as William mentioned, I wanted to take a minute to highlight some terminology that I'll be using throughout the demo that you may not have heard before. I may use some of these terms interchangeably. For example, in PeopleSoft, we use the word employee. And in Workday, we refer to employees as workers. Likewise, in PeopleSoft, we house an employee's information both in job data and personal data, whereas in Workday, that information is combined on the worker profile. Today, you see your work list in HR Action, and tomorrow it will be in the Workday inbox. Additionally, I'll be introducing the concept of applications. If you want to familiarize yourself with more Workday terms and for a more robust terminology glossary of all things Enterprise Project, you can hop onto the Enterprise Project website. This is a commercial for our website, and that listing is available there along with quite a bit more information and regular updates related to the Enterprise Project. I know you guys are very familiar with this page, the PeopleSoft homepage. Not the prettiest looking page, right? Tons of text, not easy to navigate, a lot kind of jammed into a small space, no intuitive icons. I could go on and on, right? Well, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm very excited. I get the opportunity to show you the Workday homepage and some very cool functionality. So let's jump right in. Presenting, drum roll, the Workday homepage. Definitely compared to what you just saw with the PeopleSoft homepage, this is more streamlined, less dense content, not as busy, and as you will shortly see, very easy to navigate. So today my demonstration will be in a demo testing environment. So none of the people you will see are OSU employees. Also, keep in mind that although you see some OSU branding, the homepage will not necessarily look exactly like this at Go Live. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, as I said, is the homepage. And just as an FYI, I'm going to kind of move on the page from the left side of the screen to the right as I explain concepts. So once logged in, everyone at the university will land here. Depending on your security role is what you'll have access to see and do, in particular, the applications section of the page, which I'll talk about later. So today, I'm logged in as Leslie Wong, and she is a manager. The black O up here in the top left-hand corner is the home button. No matter where you are in Workday, you can return to the home page by clicking the black O. And just as an FYI, throughout the demo today, I will frequently go back to the home page to kind of level set, just to help you keep your bearings. So the search bar. The search bar is very Google-like, where once you start typing what you're looking for, it's intuitive or predictive. So let's say that Leslie wants to hire a worker. She can start typing the word hire, and she'll get a short list of results. So here you can see some tasks and reports. If she doesn't see exactly what she's looking for here, she can finish typing the word, hit enter, and that will produce a more exhaustive list of all things relating to hire a worker. So here she can click on more. But this is a pretty huge list. So the categories section over here on the left can help her to narrow her search. So for example, I'm going to choose staffing. And the list will be refined to list only hire items related to staffing. So those items are listed below the staffing section. Going to go back to the home page and moving right along to the right side of the page. Next, I'm going to talk about notifications. Notifications are information that are nice to know, more for awareness, such as this example. Let me open up her notifications list. So this example is letting Leslie know that confirmation that she updated her home contact information. Here's another notification letting her know that her expense report has been approved. A really nice notifications feature, I'm going to sort it by the unread items. A really nice notification feature is that if you kick off a report and it's taking a long time to run, you can leave the page, it will continue to run in the background, and once completed, it will end up here. So here's document is available. So I know a pain point today is that some reports tend to take quite a bit of long time to run. I seem to remember that within e-reports, there were particular reports that took so long to run that e-reports would sometimes time out, and then you'd have to start all over. So if you ask me, this is a really awesome feature and hope will alleviate some frustration we experience today. Another great feature about notifications that I wanted to mention is that there can be reports set up to automatically be pushed out to you on a scheduled basis. So of course, it's still being determined what reports will come through automatically and which reports you will be running on an ad hoc basis. But the teams are working to have a balance between what makes the most sense without clogging up your notifications box. So continuing to move to the right, this is the Workday inbox. The Workday inbox, on the other hand, are actionable items. So if you have to do something, like approve a request, this is where it will appear. So before I show you an inbox item, I wanted to preface the example by saying that Leslie is a manager at the university, not the medical center. So health system time entry and approval will continue to be in Kronos. And also I want to just again emphasize that this is simply an example of a manager inbox item. So I'm going to open up her inbox. And the first thing I see is submitted time from one of her employees, Daniel. Biweekly or non-exempt employees will do their time entry in Workday and submit it for their manager's approval. So let's look at this time entry approval request. So I can see that her worker is Daniel. She can take a look at the time that he worked. Here's a paid holiday. The entries to approve. She can add a comment if she'd like. At the very bottom, and this is a great feature, you can see where it is in the process, who's been involved, who has awaiting actions to complete, basically where it's coming from and where it's going. So this is a fictitious testing environment. So it has a few extraneous items listed here, but disregarding these two, we can see that time entry was submitted by Daniel and is awaiting the approval action by his manager, Leslie. So this example is very simple and straightforward, but I wanted to show you that at a glance, Leslie can see where a transaction is. So for other business processes, when there may be more reviewers or approvers in the step, she can easily identify if there is a holdup in the completion of a business process. So very transparent. She's going to approve. Successful, and it will move to the Archive tab. Archive tab are historical Workday inbox items that have been acted on already by Leslie. If she needs to reference historical information, she can access it at any time here. So here you'll see what she just approved. So that is just one example, again, of a manager inbox item and what time entry and review approval could look like. So here I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions that we can answer that have come into the chat room.
All right, I see a few people typing. We're going to pause and take a few minutes to see if we can answer some questions that are coming in so far before moving on. So the question came in, will the inbox replace Outlook? No, this is not going to replace the university's instance of Outlook. We're still making a lot of decisions about how Ohio State will specifically utilize the inbox, but we do know it'll be really specific to Workday processes and notifications and items, not replacing everything else that you might use your university email for. Keep those questions coming in. We're gonna let them come in. Will we have the ability to track in and out time? I am not sure about that specific question for the Workday functionality. That's one that we'll likely be able to address in the spring when we're able to show you how Ohio State's going to use some of this information. How long do items remain in the archive? Great question. I think I'm not sure if we can actually set that. I will say I've heard that it's about 30 days, I believe, in there before it moves out of there. But once again, once we share you more specific details in the spring, I can confirm that for you. That's just a guess for you. Can you search in the archive? We will go and open up and see. It looks like you have some sorting capabilities, perhaps not searching, but you can sort by different ways. And so Anna's showing you their oldest or newest, maybe not exactly a search, but a different way to sort things. There's a question about what email notifications might come in for approvals. That's one of those things that we're still working out in terms of the interaction between those notifications or action items and the Outlook inbox. And so we'll have a more specific answer on that when we come back together in the spring. Good question, though. What happens after the manager requests the hire? That's a really specific Ohio State business process question, which we appreciate. And again, we're going to answer those really specific questions in the spring and ask that we stay focused today on the basic user experience things that Anne's trying to show you. Jennifer Rutherford's asking if a manager wants to begin the process to recruit a student employee, can you show the steps that we get to there as an example? We're going to not show that example today, Jen, because again, that's a really specific business process and less of a user experience, but please keep a hold of that question. We will definitely try to answer that in the spring. Great questions, everyone. I see one more question typing, and then we'll go ahead and move on and again, have plenty of opportunities to address questions later on too. Oh, great question. Amanda's asking if we can customize the applications on the homepage. Yes, you can, and I believe that Anne's going to show you that actually in a few minutes.
I am.
Which is a actually perfect segue, Amanda. Thank you. I want to turn it back over to Anne.
Yeah, thank you for those questions. And as William said, we'll definitely have more time at the end to field more. Okay, so moving right along. On the home page, the next thing to the right of the inbox is the worker profile, but I'm going to skip this for now and come back to it toward the end of the demo. So moving over here to the left side of the page, there may be announcements for broad information to be shared. These can be global announcements or can be configured to target specific audiences. The individuals that are able to post announcements will likely have an administrative role within Workday, so not just anybody can do this. So in this case, Leslie is being prompted to check her home address. The inbox section below lists her top inbox items, so she can see at a glance what has popped in without actually having to open up her inbox. So now the fun part, the application section of the page. So these are set up to have a similar look and feel as the apps on your phone. Applications allow Leslie to quickly access tasks, dashboards, reports, information. I compare them to like bookmarks, and there are two types. Some are very simple and some are more robust, and I'm going to show you examples of both. But before I jump into the examples, I want to add, this is to the configurable question that we just got. I wanted to add that you will have some ability to modify your home screen to meet your needs and based on how you want to manage your work. So notice the first 4 applications on her page. So My Team, Recruiting Dashboard, Pay, and Absence. By clicking on this little gear in the top right corner, I can adjust the order of the applications or add applications. And of course, the caveat being that depending on your specific security access will dictate what options you have. So let's start with a simple looking app. I'm going to choose My Team application. And here you'll see Actions and View. Actions are those items that Leslie can take on the workers who report to her. And based on Leslie's security role as a manager, she can take these listed items. You can click on More to get more options, or you can collapse. On the View listing, this is data that Leslie needs to help her manage her department. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute. As I scroll down, you can see she has 2 direct reports. Here I want to introduce the concept of what is called a related action in Workday. It looks like a little orange or Twinkie or domino. Again, though, this is called a related action. This allows you to navigate and take action directly from where you are in Workday. So I'm going to click on this. Let's say that Leslie wanted to request to give Daniel a one-time payment. She could click on the related action, hover over compensation, and then choose one-time payment. So going back to the View listing, this time I'm going to click on My Org Chart. And I have to comment here and say that this is one of my favorite things in Workday. Leslie can see her direct reports in an org chart format. So you'll notice that there's a box that looks a little different than her active workers. This reflects an unfilled position on her team, so she can truly get a picture of her whole team. And keep in mind too that this is real time, and as employees move in and out of her department, her org chart will update instantaneously. On the right side of the page, I can hover over here and I can see that Leslie reports to Jill Jones. And if I click on this little up arrow, it's kind of hard to see, this little up arrow, I can see where Leslie fits in Jill Jones's org chart. Just as an FYI, this 10 next to Jill's face signifies the number of direct reports that she has. So here Leslie has 3. All right, I'm going to show you another application. This time I'm going to show you a dashboard. So this is the recruiting dashboard. This is a representation of one type of dashboard, one that is more robust and visual. We will have a recruiting dashboard, and what will be included is still being determined, but I wanted to show you this sample dashboard to show you how robust the functionality is. And this one has a lot of information once it comes up. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and talk to a couple boxes in this dashboard. So in this box, all job recs, Leslie can see all of the job recs that are outstanding. Whoop, let me scroll down a little bit. She can scroll to the right and get all kinds more information, who the manager is, the recruiting start date, who the recruiter is, and so forth. I can click on this little gear and download the information to Excel and manipulate the data the way that I want to use it. All right, I'm going to talk about another box. I'm going to move up and show you that there are many different ways to display data, including charts that are very dynamic and interactive. So this is an example of a donut chart. I can hover over different parts of the chart. So here I see that there are 146 job recs on main campus. I can see that there are 2 on the New York City campus. I can click on this and drill down further. I can actually take action on the New York City campus requisition using the related action button that I just talked about right here on the screen. I can change the chart style. So if I click on this little plug looking icon, I can choose different types of charts. So I can choose a bubble chart or a more traditional stacked column. You guys get the idea. So that is an example of a dashboard. So the last application that I wanted to show you is another fairly simple one. I'm going to choose the benefits application. So at any time, you can review your benefit elections within Workday. And just like employee self-service through eProfile today, depending on certain life events, such as the birth of a child, you can make changes to your elections right here. And the benefits team, all right, so I'm going to go back. And the benefits team has shared with me that for OSU, they intend to put things like your plan for health and the OSU discount program on the benefits app. Also, Leslie can see her cost associated with her benefit elections down here. While this one number doesn't tell her much, I wanted to show you a really slick feature of Workday called an embedded analytic. You'll be hearing that word. You'll notice that this number is blue. And if I hover over it, I can see that it's a hyperlink. So I'm going to click on it, and up pops a detailed report of the data behind the number, and this is called an embedded analytic. So Leslie doesn't have to go someplace else to get the information. It's all in one spot. So to summarize, we've looked at a couple simple applications and a more robust dashboard application. They're designed to provide data and information at Leslie's fingertips to both help her run her department and manage her own personal data. So I want to go back to the home page right now and show you the worker profile as I promised, but this time I'm going to navigate a different way. You'll find that in Workday, there are many ways to navigate to the same thing. So this time, I'm going to click on Leslie's worker profile, and you can see she can also get back to the home page this way. So I'm going to talk about the worker profile now. As an aside, you'll notice that Leslie has a picture. But for OSU at Go Live, we will not have pictures of staff and faculty. Just wanted to throw that out there. So let's go into Leslie's profile again. And this time I'm going to look at her profile. So super convenient. You can see the job data information and personal information are all accessible on her worker profile. Whereas today, you need to navigate, as you know, from job data to personal data in PeopleSoft. In Workday, it's all in one spot, kind of like a one-stop shop. So I'm going to take a look at her job details. We can see she's a regular employee. She's a director full-time, where her location is. And we can also see all of her service dates in one spot. So let's say that Leslie wants to update her phone number. She's going to go over here, choose Contact, then Edit, then Change Home Contact Information. And then here is the address section. She's going to scroll down to the phone section. Then she's going to click on this little pencil. In Workday, whenever this pencil displays, this signifies editable fields. She's going to click on that. She's going to make a change. Maybe it's a correction. She's going to click on this checkbox and then submit. And then again, this green check mark lets Leslie know that the change has been completed successfully. So William, I'm looking at the clock and I see we have a little extra time. So if you'll indulge me, I wanted to quickly show you a standalone report because I know how important reporting is. So I'm going to go back up to the search bar And I'm going to start typing the name of a report that I know exists in this environment. Headcount by year. And there it is. So reporting offers similar dynamic and interactive functionality as dashboards. So say I want to look at the number of workers since 2015, and I only want to look at regular employees. I would go here. I have a nice visual with this clustered column graph showing me both headcount and FTE side by side. And as I showed earlier with the dashboard, of course, I can change the chart style. And I also, of course, get the data supporting the graph by scrolling down here at the bottom of the page. And then again, to show you another example of an embedded analytic, as you can see, this is a hyperlink. I can drill down on this number and then get the detail. I'll pull this open a little bit. Get the detail behind the data. So again, just another example of an embedded analytic. So this actually, these are the items that I know I just gave you a ton of information. I wanted to share with you some Workday functionality that I thought you'd be interested in seeing today. Hope this has given you a good high-level look and feel of some of the core Workday functionality and some basics with a lot more to come. So as we mentioned earlier, we'd like to open it up and see if there are any more questions that we can answer for you.
All right. Thank you, Anne. I think that was a great demonstration of some of the improvements to the overall user experience that we're going to get at Ohio State from Workday. We have some questions coming in. Please continue typing in. We do have a few more slides to show too, but we're definitely going to answer a few things. All right. Thank you, Deb, for saying it looks wonderful. I think so too. From Amanda, will we have the ability to collaborate on reports within Workday instead of exporting them from Workday? I don't have an answer for you for you today, Amanda, but please keep note of that and bring that when you're going to be taking a look at some of those specific components next spring. Good question, though. Okay. Feel free to keep typing in those questions. I am gonna go through a few more items for you today in terms of next steps. So as I've mentioned a few times, there's some more information coming about HR processes in Workday in the spring and in the fall of next year. The project is also planning a series of Carmen Connects just like this throughout early 2019 to give you more information about some of this stuff, including how data is organized in Workday, what managerial data looks like in Workday, and maybe even some reporting. I do encourage you, if you haven't already, subscribed to the Enterprise Project Digest. This is a monthly newsletter that comes out from the project to anyone who subscribes to it. The link is on your screen. You can also easily find a subscription link on the project website. Again, this is a monthly email for you to get updates directly in your inbox at least once a month from the Enterprise Project. You can also contact us anytime at enterprise-project@osu.edu, and we'll be sure to answer your questions or direct you to some more information. Okay, I see some questions are coming in and still being typed. I just want to say a quick thank you. I appreciate everyone being here, and we're still going to take some of your questions. Will access to reports be based on job profile? I do know overall access within Workday is more based on a security role, and that's something that Ohio State is just going to get started in next year, starting to look at what security roles will look like for Ohio State. So again, expect some more information about security roles next year. Beth is asking if a performance review rating was listed on the report we showed. Will we do this? So that performance rating was just an example within that demo environment that Anne was showing. So when you come back to us in the spring, we can probably show you a bit more specifics about what Ohio State reports will look like. A good question, and keep a hold of that one, Beth. Okay. I don't see any other questions coming, so at this point, I want to thank everyone for spending about 45 minutes this morning with us. And I do think, again, encourage you to check out all the resources available, including our newsletter and our website. And we look forward to chatting with you later. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.